Hey everyone, quick note before we start. This discussion is going to have spoilers for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. You have been warned. In Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we are introduced to Marvel's next great villain, Kul Khan, also known as Namor, the leader of the underwater civilization of Talokan. He wants to wage war on the surface world. He wants to kill an innocent young lady in Riri Williams. And he successfully assassinates the Queen of Wakanda. So, villain, right? Well, not so fast. I believe that by the end of the movie, we have enough information to show us that he's not actually a dark-hearted villain, but may actually be on the road to becoming a hero. So the first thing I want to discuss is his role. Namor is the leader of an underwater hidden civilization known as Talokan. Now, this civilization is entirely inhabited by people who need to be underwater to breathe. This tells us they can't live above the surface. His desire to wage war on the surface, it simply cannot be about conquest. He wants to wage war on the surface only after they come close to finding Talokan. The people of the surface now have a way of tracking vibranium. And with his entire city built about vibranium and built around it, he is now worried about the people coming to find him. Now, I hear you, that's not enough to want to wage war on the entire planet. But let's take a step back for a moment and take a look at what he knows. Now, his civilization, they went underwater because people came to where they lived, came to their village, and were all about conquest. They were trying to take over the land, and they were pushing the inhabitants aside. Now, as the original inhabitants of that land, the stories that they brought with them underwater when they fled was that the people incoming were monsters. Those are the stories he grew up hearing. And when he did go to the surface, we know when he went to bury his mother, what he saw was slavery, harsh treatment. What he saw confirmed the message he'd always been taught, that the people of the surface are monsters to be feared. We know he's gone to the surface many times since then. He has information on Wakanda and how the rest of the surface world came to desire vibranium. He knows Wakanda introduced the world to vibranium. So he clearly has been to the surface other times and has seen the world. But we know that when he's been to the surface, the people he has seen have only supported his viewpoint, has only supported that message that everyone else, everyone above the surface, are monsters. Now, if you think about it, if you were living in a confined civilization, completely surrounded by what you believe to be monsters, and they were coming close to discovering you, their only protection was the fact that nobody knows they exist. And if these monsters were to discover them, and to come after them, well, it makes sense that his logical conclusion, knowing the power that they have, and the element of surprise at their side, to destroy the monsters and to get rid of that threat, it kind of makes sense from a certain viewpoint. If he doesn't view them as human, if he doesn't view them as innocent people, but just as creatures to be feared, his desire to wage war on harsh, violent creatures at least makes a little more sense. Now, that's all well and good that if he views them as monsters, then his logic makes sense. But it's all for naught if he's unwilling to learn, if he's unwilling to accept evidence and grow. The thing is, we see that he is. When he goes after Riri Williams, the person he believes to be the link to allowing the surface world to find Talokan and to find his people that he loves, when he goes after her and comes into conflict with Wakanda over it, they seek to discuss with him. Shuri asks for an audience to talk to him about this whole situation. And instead of just killing them, which he could have done, he accepts. He brings them down to Talokan, and he doesn't confine them in a small space. He doesn't imprison them. He keeps them comfortable. He feeds them. He makes sure they're safe. And when Shuri says that she wants to see Talokan, he agrees. And he brings her down in a suit that is prepared to allow her to survive there. He is willing to show her what he's fighting for. He's willing to talk over the situation and to listen to Shuri's point of view. And he's not just listening to her, he's having an active dialogue. He wants to convince her that he's right, because that's what he believes. And so his whole thing here is he's trying to figure out what the right course of action is. And he's putting forth what he believes to be right and listening to her side of it. He even offers an olive branch in this bracelet that clearly means so much to him. Because what's more important than the memory of his mother is the health and well-being of his civilization. And extending that olive branch to Wakanda is pursuing that goal. Now, it's not just the fact that he's willing to talk and to listen with Shuri. It's also the fact that he really could have killed Shuri or Riri at any point. He has multiple sentries guarding Riri. If he really wanted to kill her, he could have done it while Shuri was away, seeing Talokan. And on that note, if he was a villain and it was only all about getting what he wants, well, he could have killed Shuri too. I mean, she was in an area where the pressure of the water would have easily killed her. And she is in a suit protecting her. The only thing protecting her, separating her from that water pressure, is the suit she's in. A suit he could easily destroy. He has plenty of opportunities to kill what appears to be his enemies. But instead, he seeks to listen and to be heard. Those aren't the actions of a cold-hearted villain. Now, I hear you. He did kill the queen, and he does not get a pass for that. That was an emotionally charged scene, and it was heartbreaking. Not just for Shuri, but for everyone. I'm not giving him a pass, but I do want to look at the circumstances that led to that. From his point of view, he is trying to protect his civilization at all costs. He views Wakanda as a middle ground. To him, it's his civilization against the world, against the surface. But Wakanda's different. Wakanda is a civilization without slaves, without a history of confining people. They're a civilization built with vibranium, around vibranium, with a very similar history to that of Talokan. To him, Wakanda is a question mark. Are they an ally, or are they with the surface world? Because to him, that's the options. They're either like Talokan, or they're like the monsters that at this point he believes are out there. Well, he views Wakanda, he watches them, and he learns about them. But he only interacts with two people from Wakanda. Shuri, who he has a good dialogue with, who he can talk back and forth with. He comes to certain understandings. He shows her Talokan, and she confesses its beauty and its wonder. And she admits it deserves to remain intact and remain protected. On the flip side, his interactions with the Queen don't go so well. Now, you can understand from her point of view, she believes her daughter's in danger. But in that fear, she threatens to reveal Talokan to the world. She threatens Namor and the people he loves. To him, she is a ruler that is a threat. She is leading Wakanda down a path that he thinks is wrong. To him, she is a ruler who needs to be dethroned. I don't give him a pass for killing the Queen. But at that point, with the knowledge he had, you can see why he'd prefer Shuri in that role. Now, a lot of my arguments, a lot of my case for Namor comes from the idea that the information he had was incomplete, was inaccurate, wasn't entirely accurate, and that he was making his decisions based on the idea that the entire surface world were monsters, and that they cannot be trusted, and that the only way to free Talokan and Wakanda from their influence is to wipe them away. Now, this is all well and good, but it means absolutely nothing if that's where he ends. If at the end of the day, he views the surface as monsters, and he is dead set on destroying them all, well then, his reasoning is all for naught. And really, he should be labeled a villain. But I don't believe that's where he ends. In his final showdown with Shuri, when he is finally defeated and he's laying prone on the sand, looking up at a surface dweller, he's shown mercy. She has every reason to kill him. He killed her mother. He attacked her city, the people that she loves. She had every reason to kill him there. And instead, she refrains. She tells him that they've shed enough blood, that Talocan deserves to stay hidden, and that he should take his people and go. Now, this is eye-opening for him. He finally sees a surface dweller who understands the need for safety, the need for protection, the need for peace. He now takes his people, and he has a lot to think about. He goes back to Talocan, and he sits on his throne, and he's confronted by one of his closest allies in Talocan, who expresses her disappointment that she was looking forward to burning down the world with him. And what he does there is very telling. He puts his money where his mouth is. His whole thing revolves around the idea that the world is inhabited by monsters who cannot be trusted. Well, he now has an alliance, a strained alliance, but an alliance with Wakanda. And he's ready to wait and see what happens. Wakanda has put themselves forward in the world, this world that he does not trust. And so now he can wait and see. If the people are monsters like he believes, then they will turn on Wakanda. And he will be there ready to step in and be a hero to help Wakanda against the horde of monsters at their door. But if he's wrong, he is now willing to sit back and wait and see. If they don't turn on Wakanda, if Wakanda is instead able to be a positive influence for the world, then he is in a prime position to watch that unfold, to continue watching, and if the time comes, to step forward and help a world where Wakanda is leading by example, well, now his people are ready to see how things move forward and to step in, if they're needed, to help a world that is apparently not inhabited by monsters. So there we have my arguments in favor of Namor. I'm not giving him a pass for the terrible things that he did, but I feel like if you look at his reasoning and you look at the decisions he made at the end, this was a man willing to look at the facts, to change his opinion based on new information. He was looking to protect the people he loved, the people he knew were good people. And at the end of the day, he's willing to sit back and wait to figure out for sure what is right. So what do you think? Do you think I'm way off about Namor and that he is entirely a villain? Do you think down the road when he returns at some point in the future of the MCU, it'll only be as a villain, as a nemesis? Or do you think at some point we'll get to see him again on the side of Wakanda and on the side of the good guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this discussion, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching.